Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of the show. If you're listening to this on a podcast streaming platform, I'm going to have links to my website where you could access the videos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms. So, in this episode, we're going to go through the list of the 30 executive orders that Biden have signed already, and we're going to focus on Trump's orders that Biden reversed within his first 24 hours. So let's get started. All right, so real quick before we jump in, if you are watching on YouTube or social media, you could check the description to get access to the Linktree link where you could listen on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Since this is the first episode, I am going to be updating the platforms as they get approved on each platform. So now let's jump into these 30 executive orders. So, as you could see here, I just pulled up a quick list online, and we're going to go through the executive orders that Biden reversed, which he did within his first 24 hours. So, the first one restores collective bargaining power and working protections for federal workers and lays the foundation for a $15 minimum wage. So, the $15 minimum wage is going to be horrific for the nation when it does pass. And for those that don't grasp the concept of that, I mean, look at places like McDonald's, any fast food place. You notice now, because that was a place that a lot of them did raise their minimum wage to 15, and they raised the pay heavily. I mean, it's basically double of what it was like 10 years ago. And you notice now most of those places, there's a lot less workers. Like sometimes you'll go there at night, there's one person running the drive-through and the register, and you got to make your order on a machine because it's cheaper to invest in the machines for the business owners than to pay people, to pay a full staff like they used to back in the day. Also, too, most of the people that work there now, all these $15 minimum wage jobs, minimum skill jobs, now it's virtually impossible to get full time because they don't want to give you health insurance. So they buy the machines, hire a bunch of part timers, and then they save money on employees and on health insurance. But yeah, so that's the first big one that could cause a lot of problems in the future for people looking for employment. And a lot of the part timers I talked to ended up making less and they were confused. So, what do we got here? So, there's a lot of coronavirus bills. What is this? Stops the United States withdrawal from the World Health Organization, with Dr. Anthony Fauci becoming the head of the delegation to the WHO. So, there is a lot of money being asked for all these coronavirus and economy bills that he signed into effect. And rejoins the Paris Climate Accord, a process that'll take 30 days. And yeah, see, you got a lot of yeses here. Cancels the Keystone XL pipeline and directs agencies to review and reverse more than 100 Trump actions on the environment. So this one's, not only does this show how fast within Biden's first 24 hours that he lied about something big, because he did stop fracking when he said he wouldn't, and 50,000 workers already got laid off within his first 24 hours. And if you do support that and you are against fracking, then you should cut off all the gas and oil supply to your house if you're truly concerned, because let's see here. And this is from October 11th. And that was actually a topic that Trump was throwing him under the bus for. And look how confident he lied that they weren't going to touch fracking. Now, the reason I say this is a huge lie, too, day one. So check it out.
Let me be clear. No matter how many lies he tells, I am not banning fracking, period. We'll also increase incomes. We're going to see the burden and the cost We're going to increase 50, we're going to make sure not prevailing wage, we can't mandate that. You guys, by the way, I said inside, the other expression my dad had was, there's only one way to deal with the abuse of power, which corporate America is exercising now. It's with power. And the only power we have is union power. You're the guys that keep the barbarians on the other side of the gate from taking everything. And that's a fact.
So there you go. He lied, and within the first 24 hours of his presidency, stopped fracking, and 50,000 union workers lost their jobs. So now this next one is a big one. He resigns the Trump administration's 1776 commission, directs agencies to review their actions to ensure racial equity. So the big problem with this, the administration's 1777 commission was actually a bill that Trump put into place to make sure that kids were being taught actual uncensored history, which obviously the left is trying to censor history based on political correctness, today's sensitivity, and because, I mean, if you're paying attention, they're obviously everything, even with Trump and Biden and the right and the left, they are trying to do a textbook divide and conquer, and scary enough, it's working. So now that he reversed this bill, it's going to help the schools lie to the students, because with everything now, I actually talked about this in my other podcast, Sorry Not Sorry with Mark and Rob. I believe it was this week's episode, last week's episode, where what is it? They were trying to how schools are getting very political today, and they're basically brainwashing this new generation to vote Democrat, to be Democrat, to have only leftist views in the way that they think. And that's why, which I brought up in my other show, that you see now, because even, I graduated high school in like 2010. I'll talk to people like my parents' age, grandparents' age. They never really remember being crazy political in like high school, even some people in college, which now almost everyone is. And what they did, they brainwashed everyone to have leftist views. And now look, I mean, this election in 2020, the youngest voters were born in 2002. And these late 90s, early thousands kids are the first generation that they've really brainwashed heavily. And then when you looked online, I mean, you'd be on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. You were able to register to vote. So not only did they brainwash these kids, they made sure they hit them from every platform. All the ads, go out to vote, click here to register. You're good to go. Mail it in. Boom. And then, so they're really hitting it hard. Even though now a lot of people think this is an empty statement, but even though the election was rigged, which it obviously was, and the reason I say that, regardless if you are for the winner or against the winner, it should, even if you wanted Biden to win, it should still concern you that he cheated. And the best way you could really get that evidence, because all this social media and Google, all the online censorship that we're hitting with, like you had companies like Parler that got removed from their hosting platform, which was Amazon, Apple Store, Google getting rid of them because they were a Facebook, Twitter-like platform that didn't censor basically right-wing beliefs or anything that makes the left look bad. They just let people express themselves, and obviously that's not part of the big people's plans. I guess you could say the elites and whoever truly runs the country. But yeah, I mean, with the censorship, you're not going to find much proof online anymore that it was rigged. And I would say, regardless which side you're on, it's not just a empty statement, because like me and my wife, for example, we watched election day. We watched it live the first day, even though it took them like a week to announce that Biden was the winner. But while we were watching, there was a few states where votes were changing. Like candidates were losing votes, which doesn't happen after votes are counted. So like that right there is just one of the few examples of how it was rigged, because people noticed that the numbers changing, people were posting it online while it was live, and then it quickly got removed and you can't find it anymore. So like if you are someone like me that pays attention and you remember you saw that with your own eyes, it won't be a valid argument because you have all these people, oh, where's your source? Where's this? And then even if you have a source, they'll be like, oh, you listen to buttfuck.com? Well, I only listen to dicksupmyass.net, like, so it's just like an empty argument. But yeah, I mean, the best way, if you really care about this stuff, you got to watch it live. But yeah, so the 1776 commission is a very dangerous thing that he reversed, because it's going to help them alter history while they're brainwashing the future generation, which is only going to get worse and worse till they're done successfully dividing and conquering. Now, this one's pretty insane, and I don't even think has to be broken down too much for you to realize how insane it is. Now, Biden is going to require non-citizens to be included in the census apportionment of congressional representatives. So now they're going to count illegal immigrants in the U.S. Census, which to me is insane. I mean, they're already trying to, I think they are planning on actually giving illegal immigrants stimulus checks and free health care and everything else. They're basically entitled to more than people that were born here are. And even they're entitled to more than immigrants that actually went through the process to legally become an immigrant. It's insane. Now you have a lot of immigration ones here. He reversed the Trump administration's restrictions on U.S. entry for passport holders from 7 Muslim majority countries. Now, that's where, I mean, obviously, if you're paying attention, the left tries to make race a big issue, and basically everything political that they do. And the scary thing is that it works, and one thing that people forget is that, like, say, for example, I remember when Trump banned flights to Egypt, people were freaking out, calling him a racist, this and that. But the countries he was banning travel from were countries that we have had issues with people trying to slip through, and some people successfully making it here, planning things from within. And I'm not saying that every Muslim person is bad. Of course not. But what I'm saying is these are countries where the bad people come from that want to do us harm. And you can't really keep us safe without, it's like kind of like my other show, a Sorry Not Sorry, but you can't keep us safe on that level without essentially screwing the whole country. But what are you going to do? Would you rather, a successful, like another 9/11 happen because you didn't want to be racist to a couple of people from other countries? Like when he killed the General Qasem Soleimani, I think I'm saying his name right. Everyone was freaking out saying he was trying to start wars. Like, I don't know about you, but I was alive with a functioning brain during the 8 years of the Obama administration. And do you guys remember all the attempted terrorist attacks? Like, I remember I used to live in New York City. They would always randomly find like a Muslim extremist like with a bomb in their car in Times Square, and luckily they caught it before it went off. But they would always find that all over the country back when there wasn't travel bans. And one thing you didn't see under Trump that happened under the Obama administration was all the ISIS beheadings. Trump virtually wiped ISIS off the planet, that the towns that they had under control are like becoming civilized again and actually like have hope, But, yeah, let's open it up. Let's help him out. I'm sure Biden will either rebuild ISIS or fund the next regime. And then here's another big one with immigration. He halts construction of the border wall by terminating the national emergency declaration used to fund it. Now, currently, I live in Vegas. I've lived in Nevada for the last 3 years. And I love the immigration wall and the border topics with people from New York, cuz like they don't realize that a lot of the illegal immigrants you meet in New York, I think how far New York is from the border. I mean, they're already good. They're in a sanctuary city, whatever. If you meet people like in El Paso, all the towns in Texas, Arizona that border Mexico, like they actually deal with a heavy amount of crime because there's people that are walking through their towns that just made it over the border and willing to do anything to survive. So like that's definitely a leftist way of thinking, but it's just funny like cuz you'll actually have people from New York City like lecturing people in El Paso like why the border should be open or why we should let them in. And it's crazy. But I mean, most arguments with anyone extreme on both sides are, but particularly the left, a little more. And another thing that's scary is it's basically like they knew or they think they knew, but I don't know if you guys have heard about the caravan with thousands, hundreds of thousands of immigrants heading towards our border from Guatemala. But the Guatemalan government actually sent out troops to prevent them from coming. But, it's like, and the funny thing about it, too, it's like, the Obama administration actually deported more than double the amount of illegal immigrants than the Trump administration did. And people forget about that. Like the second Biden wins, people get excited for like the kids locked in cages, whatever, which of course is a terrible thing. But if they came in illegally, who do you blame? The U.S. government for keeping their borders safe or the illegal immigrants' parents that dragged the child into a situation like that? But yeah, so you have all these Guatemalans ready to swarm in because Biden's in. And which makes me laugh too, because all this thing, oh, coronavirus is this serious thing, and we got to lock down and stay home and make sure it doesn't spread. Meanwhile, he's ready to even look at Mexico. He's willing to let X amount pour in, and that's a country that doesn't let us go there due to coronavirus. And if they do now, they didn't for a long time. So I know for majority of last year, like Americans couldn't, like if you were from the U.S., you couldn't travel to Canada or Mexico. So, it really makes no sense to let them come in illegally now. And the last thing I wanted to get into was so Biden did pass a bill for mask mandates on federal property. Now, one of the scary things that is coming in the near future with COVID is the vaccine ID cards. So there is a few states, I know California's on board to start requiring you to show that to the vaccine ID card, which is basically a new identification card that shows that you've been vaccinated. And it's going to get to the point where you're going to need that to work. You're going to need that to go into stores. You're going to need that to travel across any border. So basically, they're going to get it to the point where if you don't get the vaccine, you're not going to be able to work. You're not going to be able to leave your state. You're not going to be able to go anywhere, even if you wanted to. And it's pretty scary. And then this one, see
even
here,
as the first was.
So they claim that the identification card is just a way to for the doctors to know that you've had your first treatment, and then you go out. Then you could get the second one. I guess they're trying to claim it's to safely, execute it. But I'm telling you, this is going to be required, and it's some scary stuff.
Wisconsinites are getting COVID vaccines. Questions are already popping up about whether people will be required to get it.
I can assure you the state has no intention of mandating the vaccine. What private employers do, they may will be up to each employer as to the conversations they want to have with their employees.
The state gives anyone getting the vaccine a card, but DHS says it's meant as a reminder to return for the next injection, not to be used as proof for admission to work or other venues.
You see that being anything where government has a role in a lot in giving people proof of vaccination.
The card is a requirement for vaccination, but I think it's important to also remind folks that that information will be in the Wisconsin Immunization Registry.
But Aneet Mukherjee of the D.C.-based Center for Global Development tells 12 News such ID requirements are almost a certainty for a return to normal.
There would be gatekeepers, as I call them, at different places, be it your workplace, be it in the office building that you go in, or a stadium to watch the Bucks play. And they would require some form of assurance that you have been vaccinated.
He was in the Indian government when they developed biometric ID cards and says a COVID vaccine ID card like it could be developed quickly.
That's a public good. And therefore, we need to think of how we approach this in a very, very careful manner, but also understanding that this is the future and there will be other pandemics. And we need to be prepared.
Now, Nick, how long does he think it would take to develop that type of an ID, a COVID vaccine ID card?
Well, he says there could be a print-at-home version where you just print out a QR code at home and bring it with you prior to having some sort of like permanent ID. He thinks that could be developed in just a matter of months.
I love how nervous the reporters' faces looked like before they started talking after they listened to that. But yeah, I mean, it's scary stuff. Who's to know? We don't know the side effects yet. I know there's a bunch of cases of people getting the shakes that got it. There was I was reading recently like the 26th person died from it in the UK. So it is killing and damaging a decent percentage of people. And the biggest thing to me, why are they selling it to us? It's like when have you seen anything? You never saw like Bush and Biden and whoever go on TV. Oh yeah, get your flu shots. Oh yeah, get this, get that. Look, I did it. Like why are they selling it so hard when it was rushed? They really don't know the side effects. And then you have Pfizer, the manufacturer of the COVID vaccine, that they're not held liable for any side effects or deaths, anything. And the CEO of Pfizer, now get this bullshit, he didn't even take it yet, and he claims he doesn't want to unfairly cut. Now, cut in line, which to me is funny. I mean, most people that are buying into this bullshit hate, fascists and rich people. You really think a greedy fucking business owner doesn't want to cut you in line and wants you to be safer than him? If this was all legit, the person that fucking owns it would have had it before you even knew it existed. I'm saying, it's just funny, like the shit they expect us to buy. But yeah, I mean, that's basically all of his orders and what's to come that I wanted to go through. And the last thing I will bring up, so I don't know if you guys have heard about or looked into the 25th Amendment. But basically what the 25th Amendment is, Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris have been working on it together. And basically what it would do is give the Senate the power to deem a president unfit to work so a vice president could take over. And they're also threatening now that if Biden doesn't help the 25th Amendment go through, they're going to try to impeach him. So their plan was Kamala all along. The identity politics gets very dangerous because now think about this. When you're a Democrat, when you have, like, they're talking about how he has the most racially diverse, team in the White House. We got the first female black vice president, and everyone's like crying over it, letting it hit them personally. They basically have a ticket to do whatever they want. I mean, he's always at this point he's been in for 3 days, and within his first 24 hours, he did a bunch of major shit already. Now, not only do they get the free pass, it's like you know, like say for example, if Trump was a Democrat, not only would he not be as hated as he is, they probably would have been crying that, oh, we got the first immigrant first lady, and they would have been like clapping like it was an achievement. But instead, because he was a Republican, you know, they just made her look like a little bimbo that likes the billionaire cock, you know? So yeah, thank you guys for tuning into the first episode. I hope you guys learned something, enjoyed what you heard. My goal is just to get as much information out as possible and to try to talk about it in an as much unbiased way as possible, just to get real facts out there regardless of who you're for. Now, I'm someone that voted for Trump in 16 and Joe Jorgensen in 20. So, you know, for future episode, I could give you a whole list of what Trump's actually about versus what he claimed to be about. Because most people that love the man don't realize that all the shit he was doing in the shadows that was polar opposite of what they believe in and what they thought he was for. But like I said, a different topic for another episode. Yeah, so like I said before, if you look in the description, you could get my Linktree link, check out my podcast streaming platforms for the audio version, listen on the go, whatever. And yeah, I'm also going to link my other podcast, Sorry Not Sorry with Mark and Rob, that's hosted by me and my good friend Rob. And we post there every Monday. And yeah, let me know your thoughts below on these topics, if anything caught your attention. And yeah, tune in next Saturday for the second episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check the info around me. I will link the other stuff for my other podcast since this is the first episode. Nothing really to link yet, but yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you watching and have a great week.